Record.
It's a Spanish name. Not kidding.
What's up, everybody? This is Samir Azizi, and welcome to Azizi Podcast. Today we are discussing Toronto DAO with the co-founders Antoine, Vuyst, and Matthew Glezos. Full disclosure, I'm also a part of Toronto DAO. Just wanted to put it up front there. What's up, guys? How are you?
Oh, good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no, we're great. I'm great.
Why don't you just give us a little bit of a background on yourself? I see, Antoine, your face in front of the camera, like more frequent on Zoom right now. So let's start with you.
Yeah, so I've been in the crypto space since back in 2011, there was only Bitcoin. So I found out about Bitcoin in 2011, and then I got some, just messed around online. And in 2013, I started joining these meetups that were happening in Toronto. And it's actually where Ethereum was born. So I saw Vitalik get up on a podium and talk about Ethereum before it started. And a whole bunch of people at those meetups, a lot of people who are still in the crypto space to this day. Yeah, just amazing.
That was quite a journey,
times.
like all the way from the Vitalik's uprising or like rise to power. You've seen
it wasn't
the inception.
it was like a community,
Right.
It wasn't Vitalik by himself. He couldn't have done it by himself. Obviously, there was a lot of other people there.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Charles Hoskinson there, Joe Lubin. A lot of people, those people, they weren't from Toronto. Actually, it was Anthony DiOrio who was organizing all those meetups.
Wow.
Well, anyways, that was I guess a formative experience. Back in 2014, I remember helping write a paper. I wasn't very good at writing papers at the time. I didn't contribute much, but it was with Vlad Zamfir and I think Ethan Buckman. It was a paper about DAOs, like defining what a decentralized organization was. So people were thinking about this all the way back in 2014. And that's when I first heard of DAOs.
Nice. Let's get back to that point. But first, let's also talk with Matthew. Matthew, could you talk a little bit more about yourself, about your background?
Yeah, sure. So I originally come from a more traditional finance marketing background. I got my MBA at Ted Rogers a few years ago, maybe more than a few years ago, like 2015. That seems like yesterday to me.
Yeah.
So I've worked in different parts in Latin America and in the banking industry here in Canada. I started getting into crypto maybe around 2018, just a bit after like the initial like bull run, but very small amounts. Like I play around with like $100 here, $100 there. Then of course when you're new, that $100 turns into 92, and you're just like, oh my God. But like nothing too substantial. I started going to Bitcoin Bay meetups just before COVID hit.
And that's one of the biggest meetups in Toronto and probably in the world, dedicated to Bitcoin.
So this was maybe like I want to say January 2020, so like literally just before it, which is unfortunate because I attended like 4 meetings before like the world ended. But
Restarted, I would say.
Yeah, sure, restarted. But I started learning more about Ethereum just by talking to people who attended these meetups, and Ethereum was like $300 at the time, give or take. And I thought like, wow, this is like a very undervalued asset. And of course, COVID did hit, and we had the COVID crash with both the stock market and crypto. And if I thought it was undervalued at $300, you can imagine how I felt about it when it hit $130. So I stopped doing the $100 here, $100 there, and kind of did the all-in type thing just as that happened. And I decided to go from sort of a part-time amateur to try to do this more professionally. I attended the George Brown blockchain programming course, where I studied during like everything was closed, lockdowns and everything. And after that, I worked for a couple DAOs. Bear market, unfortunately, hit me hard, not with the prices, but like in terms of employment. So I took a step back, left blockchain professionally, but I'll still attended the meetings. But I'm starting to get back into it with Toronto DAO.
So let's talk about that. Thanks so much, both of you, for that introduction. I know you for both of you for I feel like a year or so at this point, and through Bitcoin Bay, of course, during one of the best meetups I think in Toronto happens every 2 weeks, and they also have the satellite meetings around Ontario, and I think even in Latin America, if I'm not mistaken. But big shout out to Bitcoin Bay organizers. But folks, I mean, it's been like what, 2 years for this horrible bear market for crypto. Remember how we were all so cool because we were on crypto? This was like the hype. Everyone was going crazy. You wake up every morning. That's my routine. You wake up every morning, check the Bitcoin price, wake up in the morning, check the Ethereum price, blah blah blah. Go on Reddit, on Twitter, and everyone is just happy. Everyone's just like, whoa, if you own an exchange, if you are, running an exchange, you're the coolest guy. Now everyone's in jail. Well, not everyone, but a lot of folks right now are still in court, like such as FTX, for example, Sam Bankman-Fried and Caroline Ellison, which we're still hearing the news. I actually received the news today that MetaMask is no longer listed on App Store. I'm not sure what's happening there, but it's definitely kind of a dire time. But during those, hype times, during those high bull runs, we had also such things as decentralized autonomous organizations or DAOs. And there are some definitions for DAOs, but also, some people kind of think about it in more of an affluent definition of these organizations. Why don't you, as co-founders of Toronto DAO, describe to me what is a DAO?
Do you want to take this, Antoine, or should I?
And also, what do you think about this whole thing? Like, what's happening with the? Sorry, I give you the whole prefix with the bear run right now that it sucks for 2 years. Like, how are you holding up there? Like,
well, I'll touch on that real quick. Like, first of all, just a bit of perspective. I don't think we're in a bear market because I don't think this 2021 bull market was a real bull market. The real bull market was in 2018 when the price of Bitcoin went from 1K to like 20K. That's a 20x change, right? And then the real bear market was between 2018 and 2020 when it went back down to like 3,000. So now we're the bull market everybody's talking about went to like 60K Bitcoin, which is 3 times. So that's not a real spike. That's just a foothill to the next potential upcoming
That's
spike.
a good perspective.
Yeah. So we're not in a real bear market right now, in my opinion. I just say that as somebody who's been in the crypto space since like 2011 and like a lot of people, I see a lot of newcomers to the space talking about like how today it's a bear market, and I'm saying no, you guys haven't seen the bull markets and the bear market. Seriously,
I like that.
But anyways, yeah,
Toronto DAO, and what is a DAO in general?
I'm super excited about the concept of a DAO. I think it's sort of like DAOs today are like companies in the 1800s, just like a new type of organization that is coming out. You know how back in the olden days, companies would always be named this company, that company.
Yeah.
Call it like Samir Co. or Antoine Co.
What's
like,
this famous Toronto or Canada company? Bay something.
Bay Company, Bay Trading Company.
What is that?
It's now called the Bay, but I think the full name is Hudson's Bay.
Hudson's Bay, yeah, exactly. Like the Hudson's Bay company still exists. Crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. So just like that, in today's world, people are calling it this DAO and that DAO, right? Like today's companies don't have the word co attached. In the future, the DAOs won't have the word DAO appended to their name, but today they do because it's a new thing. So back in the day, you had this co, that co. Today you have this DAO, that DAO. So we're creating, Toronto.
Now, if I was 5 years old, how would you describe to me what's the difference between DAO and the company?
I would say that, that's challenging, but I would say, like a DAO doesn't have one boss. It has many people controlling it instead of one person at the top. For 5 years. Yeah.
I basically, as many people as possible have an input in the decision-making process, as opposed to, 1 to 3 people.
So it's in a way like democratizing the whole ownership of the company where when you say many bosses, which means like the decision is being taken collectively rather than just one key figure steers the ship. Is that correct?
I mean,
Yeah,
for a
sorry, go ahead.
5-year-old, that would probably be my go-to explanation.
What if I was 10-year-old? How would you
No.
There's actually that interesting
Yeah,
exercise
you're
where
making me
like
think. You're making me think.
It's all the prompting that I've done with ChatGPT. Explain to me like I'm five. Like because I'm not trying to
Yeah.
say that.
No, totally. No, it's a good question.
Yeah.
Um,
So we'll get back to this question as well, but
yeah,
I am curious about Toronto DAO because in my understanding is also Toronto DAO is something where, or just a DAO in general, is the organization that has a mission, right? And people who are part of DAO, they have like a voice, right? As you said, many bosses, right? So like they are able to contribute something and to the decision making where it's actually counts. And I feel like everything is like the reason why it is connected to crypto is because we have the ledger, right? Every decision making is happening on the ledger. Is that something that that is also sort of important for a DAO, or it can be like
yeah.
we can have ledger, we can not have ledger? Like, what's the deal with that?
I think the A part of the DAO, autonomous, is also, you can think automatic. This means two things. Autonomous means automatic, and it means self-sovereign. So the DAO is not owned by anything; it only owns itself. But also, a lot of things are automated, and with technology, we can use technology to automate a lot of the decision-making processes, and that allows us to have a flatter hierarchy that actually works. Because a lot of times hierarchy exists to make things run smoothly, right? But if you have automation, then you can have a less hierarchical organization that also runs smoothly as well. So, like you said, the ledger, having like a fair system where contributions are measured and incentives are measured and rewards are measured, and you don't need to rely on human trust, right? It's automated, so you can have a smoother functioning where people have equal power instead of like everybody looks upwards. Because in the traditional organization you need that hierarchy, otherwise everything's just going to fall apart from like too much complication. But now we can have more complicated organizations because due to the automation ability,
Yeah.
I definitely think it's possible without it, but it'd be a lot harder. And this really streamlines the process. And like Antoine said, you don't have to trust. Without the technology, you would definitely have to trust everybody.
No, thanks for that. And Matthew and Antoine, how did the idea of Toronto DAO appeared like in your minds? Like what kind of caused the Toronto DAO to exist? Like was something happened, or what's the mission of it? Like how did it all happen and what does it mean?
Maybe Antoine should start because he approached me like a year ago about this, but it sort of was just like casual talking. So this I would definitely say this was like Antoine's brainchild.
Antoine, how did you birth this child? Tell me more.
Well, so it's not only been my idea. Something like Toronto DAO has been on the minds of a lot of people, I would say, in the Toronto crypto space. Some kind of citywide organization. And I'll tell you, like, one of the key things that's missing in the city, we had it back in 2013. I brought it up earlier. We had like a physical location that was dedicated to crypto where people could go, and that was really powerful. Like, that's where Ethereum was created. It was just a place where people could go work on crypto. People could go do meetups, dedicated spot. That was so powerful that it actually like created Ethereum, and we don't have that even to this day. And I think we would really like something like that back.
Like an incubator of ideas, or
Yeah, like a community meetup space and incubator and like just co-working space all in one for crypto, dedicated to crypto for Toronto. Yeah. And yeah, so we're thinking, how do we get that? And one way is crowdfunding. So you got to get a lot of people in Toronto together. Like everybody put something in, whether it's money or contribution time. And yeah, and back then, like I learned about the word DAO from that place. And what better way to create a new organization than a DAO, to have that space. Well, that's what I think we need. There's other people who agree with me, and
Yet you've waited for 10 years and you just recently were kind of like organizing and creating this thing. Like something triggered you, to create this. Was it just like a sporadic decision? Let's just go for it. Because again, like not the best time to do it just because the hype is not here. But at the same time, maybe it is the best time because all the fake people are out of this industry. What do you think?
yeah,
I've often
I have no excuses, like I could have started it earlier, I suppose. But then again, like, it's not just me. How come nobody else started it too?
Exactly.
I
Well,
often a lot of
yes,
people say
Matthew.
the bear market, or maybe I shouldn't use that word considering Antoine doesn't agree, but we'll use it anyways. Um, is always the best part to build.
Hmm.
Right now, we're dedicating our time with this. Of crowdfunding, the money will have to come, but you know, I don't want to say our time is worthless because definitely is not, but it's definitely something we can dedicate without money at the moment.
So let me underline though, like the cause of the DAO, like the mission. So far, we want to create a community. We want to create an incubator of ideas, a co-working space. We want to have like a real estate, right? Like this, maybe own, maybe rent, but like we want to gather somewhere. So that's one thing. Are there any other things that you feel like Toronto DAO can be useful at? In addition to
Uh,
that, I mean, this is a great things, but if you summarize it with the word Toronto, and it
Yeah,
feels like there's a lot in the city. Like it's one of the biggest cities
yeah,
in North America, and
yeah.
you name your DAO after it.
well, I mean, we're from
We
a
live in
Web3
Toronto.
and crypto background, but we want to embrace the entire city and not just the Web3 community. We think the DAO can create sort of a, a decentralized city hall type situation.
Yeah,
Whereas, yes, we want to incorporate nonprofits, profits, small businesses to all help each other out for things that they care about. And you know, there's different organizations all throughout the Toronto. There's like a TTC Riders that focus on public transit in Toronto. There's like Feed the Homeless, and we want to incorporate them into the DAO as well. And we want to allow a lot of people to be involved in that decision-making process. We have a membership set up that we haven't talked about, so I'll bring it up now.
Yes, please.
Um, Basically, I won't get too technical, but the membership is an NFT that will reward active participants with various XP, sort of like a video game. And every time you do something for the DAO, you would get XP sent directly to your membership, and that XP greatly influences your voting power.
And
We
by
filter.
XP, just for the normies there who don't play much, by
Oh,
XP we
sorry.
just mean like points of like respect, reputation points, or just like it's like a credit
Yeah,
score.
yeah.
yeah. So, like with video games, if you like have a character that's strong, you'll have like strong strength XP and all that, and makes your character better. So more XP you have, the in theory your membership should be
You
better.
can level up your
Uh,
membership by doing more
Yeah.
stuff for the DAO.
exactly.
And this is also
Um,
the idea of gamifying things as well, making things fun, making things,
Yeah, it
yeah,
gets you that motivation. Sorry, Matthew, please continue.
oh yeah, no problem. So basically, and not all XP is created equally. If you're more on the private side, you would get like business XP. If you're more on the Feed the Homeless side, you would get XP related to that, and that allows you to focus on what you care about. If you only care about like the nonprofit side, you can focus on that. And whenever there's a proposal related to that issue, if I'm more tech and business side, and Antoine's more about feeding the homeless and TTC riders, I can't swoop in and use my XP to greatly influence that vote because I didn't really participate in those activities like Antoine did.
What about hybrids?
Um,
Can you do both, like business
no,
and
you can. So
mix
that
your
there's
XPs?
definitely. Oh, you mean like a total XP,
Well,
or
maybe. I mean, if you're feeding the homeless and you're into the TTC riders, but those are two different types of XPs, can you do both and
You
have
can have
like
XP in
say,
both. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
The thing is, like, we want to. So we have like a core team that's working on it now, but eventually we want the core team to completely remove its ownership from the situation. And so the answer to that question is it wouldn't really even be up to us. Ideally, it would be somebody creating their own XP or their own proposal that say, okay, anybody that does feed the homeless and TTC, that combined XP will influence their voting power.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. How do you support that from the tech side? I mean, it sounds like if especially if we're utilizing, blockchain technology, you want to make sure that every decision is on the ledger, that DAO is
Yeah.
like DAO essentially is a giant document, in my opinion, where all the proposals and voting, it's like a giant bureaucracy machine that is fully automated. Like
Yeah.
all of that, all of those actions are fully documented and
Yeah.
not non-fungible. So like you cannot change them. Whatever happened, it happened. It's part of the history.
Mm.
I mean, it sounds like a huge thing. And how do you do that, like from the technical standpoint?
Well, you start step by step and you experiment. So, for example, right now, there's various DAO softwares available that are built that you can use. You can create a DAO, add members, award points, create proposals, vote. It's got a lot of those things. And so we're like exploring different available DAO softwares and just like picking the one that's going to work best for us. And also, like if none of them are perfect, we're going to try to build our own, and that's exactly suited to what we want. And once we have a system and we're using a DAO software, and let's say we want to change the software we're using, we can create a proposal within the existing software to upgrade to a different software. So yeah, it's going to be an evolving thing, and it's going to be very iterative, and it might start simple, but it might get more sophisticated over time. But I think we need to start simple because we don't like know exactly how it's going to work, and if we try to complexify too early, we're probably going to have a lot of features we don't need. So simple is good in the beginning.
I
Yeah,
think
just
it's
to
a
add to
great
that,
idea.
like the token standard that we're using our membership, it's like 5 months old, if that. So there's a lot of learning that what we would do with that. Um, and like Antoine said, the version 1 of your membership is probably going to be a very basic model where we may just have one XP or two or three, something very basic, and we just have general voting, just to sort of show that, hey, that this can be done. We even and all those people that are along for the ride at the beginning, we will thank them for their patience, but we hope to reward them as being a part of these memberships.
Yeah.
Free of charge. Eventually we need to crowdfund. We need to have a treasury to fund all these stuff, but we don't want anybody who's taking part in this, who are patient with us, who will sit through the bugs. They won't get anything. They won't pay anything. And everything will be like a very slow process as we learn.
Speaking of Hudson's Bay and how the companies are, established and got like the legal corporation status and all of that. I know that Wyoming, I think, the news is like probably a couple of years old at this point, so I might be mistaken, but Wyoming is one of the states that legalized DAOs, I think. Whereas, it's kind of like an LLC in a way. Uh, don't like check me on that information. But do you
Yeah.
see Toronto or Ontario doing something like that where the province will recognize DAO as a legal entity?
So right now, I won't get too into regulatory, but I will say there it's no secret that in both Canada and Ontario and in the United States that there's been some regulatory pushback. Um, many many international exchanges are leaving first Ontario and then Canada outright. Um, Now, granted, FTX was banned from Ontario, a long time ago, and that turned out to be the right decision by the Ontario government. Binance has also left. Jury is still out on whether that will be the right decision. I know a lot of people have some controversial opinions, either for or against Binance.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I spoke with CZ on one of his spaces about Canada, and he said that they might eventually come back, provided provided the regulations will ease up. But Canada is still on their minds, is what I've gathered.
So, and I have to admit it's a bit. I feel sometimes it is a bit restrictive. But like I said, their argument would be like, look at what's going on, and I can't blame them for that either. So I'm kind of hoping that once the Celsius and the FTX and the Terra Luna dust sort of settles, and you see legitimate players coming from this doing good, you'll see the Ontario government, the Canadian government being like, okay, there's some good people in this field as well, and we need to do what we can to help them, not punish while simultaneously punishing the bad actors.
And I would just like to add that what we're trying to create is we're just trying to create like a grassroots movement, and we intend on moving forward regardless of the regulatory environment. So it's
Sounds kind of badass, if you ask me.
No, I mean,
We're moving forward regardless.
Of course, it'd be easier to have them on our side and to help us with them. And if any government institution wants to talk with us, we'd be happy to sit down with them. But if there are certain laws that maybe stand in our way, we're not going to just blatantly ignore them, but we're going to say, okay, how can we? It's unfortunate that this happened, but how can we move forward with the new environment that has been created?
Folks, thanks so much for this discussion. We're running out of time. Are there any closing remarks before we conclude this episode?
I just want to say, Toronto DAO is open to everyone. How do you join the DAO is simply ask. And if you want to be a part of the core team, it's the same thing. How do you join? Ask, and we'd be happy to have you on board.
Yeah, go to tdao.to.
I'll provide all the links in the podcast notes, both on YouTube and all the audio podcast stations. Guys, thanks so much for this amazing conversation. I feel like, of course, these conversations are worth having because everything that is aimed to improve the society, to improve people's lives, is definitely worth working on. And I'm really hopeful that Toronto DAO will succeed. And I wish you all the best. And I hope we can have this conversation one more time in the future, or many times.
Yeah,
definitely.
Thank you so much for hosting us.
Of course. Thanks so much. This was a ZZ podcast. Bye, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and just recommend to your friend. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.